Not all protection is physical. Some protection is spiritual, invisible, unshakable. Evil people do not only attack your body, they attack your peace, your clarity, your confidence, your spirit. And if your spirit is weak, their chaos enters easily. But when your inner world is fortified, no manipulation can control you, no envy can disturb you, no darkness can settle inside you. So take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs strength and clear direction, and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. Stay with me until the very end, because every part connects and strengthens the one after it. If you're ready to take back control of your life, say this within yourself and write it in the comments. My spirit is guarded. My peace is untouchable. Here are 9 spiritual strengths that protect you from evil people, not by fighting them, but by making you untouchable. Number 1. Self-awareness. The first layer of spiritual protection is knowing yourself deeply. When you understand your triggers, your wounds, your insecurities, you become harder to manipulate. Evil people look for blind spots. They exploit unhealed trauma and unresolved fears. But when you have done the inner work, when you have faced your shadows honestly, there is little for them to weaponize. Self-awareness closes the doors that manipulation tries to enter. Think of the person who has never examined their fear of abandonment and therefore tolerates disrespect just to avoid being left, compared to someone who recognizes that fear within themselves and consciously chooses not to let it dictate their standards. The manipulator can only pull the strings that are exposed. Or consider someone who craves constant validation because they secretly doubt their worth, making them vulnerable to flattery and love bombing, versus the individual who has confronted their insecurity and no longer feels intoxicated by empty praise. The Stoics emphasized rigorous self-examination, believing that an unexamined mind is easily disturbed and easily controlled. When you know what provokes you, what tempts you, and what weakens your judgment, you are far less likely to be steered by someone else's agenda. Self-awareness does not make you paranoid, it makes you precise. You notice when your emotions spike, when your reasoning becomes biased, when your past is coloring your present, and that awareness gives you pause before reaction. Manipulative people rely on emotional reflexes, on your impulsive need to be liked, feared, needed, or rescued. But once you have mapped your inner terrain, those reflexes lose their automatic power. Facing your shadows is uncomfortable because it requires admitting where you are still fragile, still reactive, still healing. Yet that honesty becomes armor. No one can shame you with a truth you have already acknowledged, and no one can bait you with a weakness you are actively strengthening. In this way, self-awareness becomes not just insight but protection, a quiet internal guard that filters intentions before they take root, ensuring that your spirit is guided by clarity rather than controlled by unseen wounds. Number 2. Emotional discipline. Spiritual strength is not about suppressing emotions, it is about governing them. When someone insults you, provokes you, or attempts to destabilize you, your reaction determines your vulnerability. If you explode easily, you are controllable. If you remain centered, you are sovereign. Emotional discipline transforms you into a calm presence in chaotic situations, and calm energy disrupts those who thrive on drama. Think of the workplace scenario where a colleague deliberately makes a sarcastic remark in a meeting, hoping to embarrass you into reacting defensively. If you snap back impulsively, you validate their strategy and lose composure. But if you respond evenly or choose silence, their attempt loses momentum and often exposes their insecurity instead. Or consider a family gathering where someone presses on an old wound to provoke an argument. When you react emotionally, the cycle repeats. But when you acknowledge the comment without feeding it, the pattern weakens. The Stoics, particularly Epictetus, taught that it is not events that disturb us, but our judgments about them, meaning the power lies in mastering interpretation before reaction. Emotional discipline is the pause between stimulus and response, the deliberate choice to ask, "Is this worth my peace?" rather than surrendering to impulse. This does not mean you feel nothing. It means you feel fully, but act wisely, understanding that outrage can be manipulated and that composure is a form of authority. Those who rely on chaos lose influence when confronted with steadiness, because drama requires participation to survive. When you cultivate emotional governance, you stop being predictable to those who seek to push your buttons, and unpredictability in reaction becomes strength. Your calmness becomes a boundary, your restraint becomes power, and your presence carries weight precisely because it is not easily shaken. Number 3. Discernment. Not everyone who smiles at you is for you. Spiritual strength sharpens perception. Discernment allows you to sense inconsistencies between words and actions. It allows you to observe patterns without being blinded by charm. Discernment is not paranoia, it is wisdom in motion. It protects you from giving trust where trust has not been earned. Think of the person who is captivated by charisma alone, impressed by grand promises and intense enthusiasm, only to later realize that consistency was missing from the beginning, compared to the one who quietly watches whether actions align with words over time before investing deeply. The difference is not cynicism, it is observation. Or consider someone who frequently says all the right things about loyalty and integrity, but repeatedly cancels commitments or avoids accountability. Discernment notices the pattern without needing confrontation at every step. The Stoics valued perception grounded in reality, urging themselves to see things as they are rather than as they wish them to be. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself to strip impressions down to their essence, to look beyond appearance and examine substance. Charm can be rehearsed, promises can be exaggerated, but patterns reveal character. Discernment requires patience because it refuses to rush into conclusions driven by emotion or flattery. It waits, watches, and gathers evidence. Paranoia assumes deception everywhere, but discernment simply asks, does this behavior match the claim, and adjusts accordingly. When you cultivate this awareness, you stop overextending trust based on potential, and you begin granting access based on proof. In doing so, you protect your time, your energy, and your spirit from unnecessary harm, not by closing your heart, but by opening your eyes. Number 4. Strong boundaries. Boundaries are spiritual armor. They define where you end and others begin. Evil people test limits constantly. They push, guilt, manipulate, and pressure to see what you tolerate. When your boundaries are firm, access to you is controlled. You do not over-explain your no. You do not apologize for protecting your energy. Boundaries communicate self-respect, and self-respect deters exploitation. Think of the co-worker who repeatedly delegates their unfinished tasks to you under the disguise of teamwork, and when you finally respond with a calm, "I'm not available for that," without a long justification, the pattern either stops or redirects elsewhere. The moment you stop over-explaining, you stop inviting negotiation. Or the friend who uses guilt to pressure you into commitments that exhaust you, and instead of crafting elaborate excuses, you simply decline respectfully and consistently, teaching them that access to your time is not automatic. The Stoics understood the importance of governing what is within your control, including how much of yourself you offer and under what conditions. Epictetus reminded his students that if you wish to improve, you must be willing to be thought foolish or selfish by those who benefit from your compliance. Boundaries are not walls of hostility but lines of clarity, making it evident what behavior you accept and what you do not. Manipulative individuals rely on ambiguity, on your discomfort with saying no, on your desire to be liked more than respected, but firm limits disrupt that strategy. When you stand in your no without aggression and without apology, you signal that your self-respect is non-negotiable. Some will label you distant or difficult when you enforce standards, yet often what they resist is the loss of easy access. Strong boundaries reduce drama because they remove confusion, and they create relationships rooted in mutual respect rather than silent resentment. In this way, boundaries function as quiet armor, not heavy and aggressive, but steady and protective, ensuring that your spirit remains intact and your dignity remains untouched. Number 5. Detachment from validation. One of the most powerful protections is no longer needing approval. Evil people use praise and rejection to steer behavior. If your identity depends on external affirmation, you are easily influenced. But when your confidence is internal, when your worth is self-defined, flattery loses power and criticism loses sting. Detachment from validation makes you emotionally independent. Think of the employee who works tirelessly, not from purpose, but from a hunger to be praised, and therefore bends their standards whenever a superior withholds approval, compared to the one who values excellence for its own sake and is not destabilized by inconsistent recognition. One is steered by applause, the other by principle. Or consider someone who stays in unhealthy relationships because they fear disapproval or abandonment, versus someone who knows their worth, does not fluctuate with another person's mood. The Stoics warned against tying your peace to public opinion because what others think is unstable, shifting with trends, emotions, and personal agendas. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that the approval of others is neither fully within your control nor a reliable measure of virtue. When you crave validation, praise becomes bait and rejection becomes a leash, and manipulators alternate between both to shape your behavior. But when your self-concept is anchored internally, built on your values, your discipline, your integrity, you are less reactive to both compliments and insults. Flattery feels pleasant but does not intoxicate you, and criticism is examined for truth without becoming a wound. Emotional independence does not mean indifference to feedback. It means you evaluate it rather than absorb it blindly. As your need for validation decreases, your decisions become clearer, less influenced by fear of judgment or desire for applause, and more aligned with your authentic standards. In this way, detachment from validation becomes quiet strength, insulating you from those who attempt to manipulate through reward and withdrawal, and grounding you in a confidence that does not rise and fall with external voices. Number 6. Faith in a higher order. Whether you call it God, destiny, or universal law, believing that justice and balance exist beyond human manipulation strengthens you spiritually. When you trust that wrongdoing eventually carries consequences, you do not feel compelled to seek revenge. Faith removes desperation. It replaces anxiety with patience, and patience keeps your spirit calm when others attempt to provoke chaos. Think of the person who was publicly wronged and immediately feels the urge to retaliate, to expose, to prove, to settle the score, compared to the one who says, "I will act with integrity and let time reveal truth," choosing composure over impulse. The first becomes consumed by the battle, the second preserves their peace. Or consider someone passed over unfairly for an opportunity and tempted to sabotage or gossip, yet instead they continue refining their work, trusting that sustained character and effort will eventually align them with the right doors. The Stoics believed in a rational order to the universe, often referring to it as logos, a guiding structure that ensures actions carry natural consequences even if human systems fail temporarily. Marcus Aurelius frequently reminded himself that nothing escapes the order of nature and that acting justly is reward enough. Faith in a higher order does not mean passivity or blindness to injustice. It means refusing to let bitterness dictate your response because you trust that you are not the ultimate judge of outcomes. This belief dissolves the urgency to correct every wrong immediately, allowing you to conserve energy and maintain dignity. When chaos swirls around you, faith steadies you because you are no longer reacting out of fear that everything depends on your retaliation. You understand that your role is to act rightly, not to control every result. In that trust, patience becomes strength, restraint becomes wisdom, and your calm presence unsettles those who expected you to crumble or rage. Number 7. Forgiveness with wisdom. Holding on to hatred binds you to the one who hurt you. Forgiveness releases that bond, but spiritual strength does not mean forgetting lessons. You forgive internally to free your heart, but you adjust boundaries to protect your future. This combination, compassion and clarity, keeps your spirit light while keeping your life secure. Think of the person who replays an old betrayal for years, feeling a surge of anger every time the name is mentioned, still emotionally tethered to the past, compared to the one who decides, "I will not let this bitterness live inside me," and gradually lets go of the resentment, while also deciding that access to their time, trust, and vulnerability will never return to what it once was. The first remains connected through hatred, the second disconnects through peace. Or consider someone who was taken advantage of financially and chooses not to pursue revenge or constant hostility, yet ensures future agreements are written clearly, expectations are stated up front, and generosity is balanced with discernment. The Stoics warned that anger is a temporary madness, clouding judgment and chaining your mood to someone else's actions. Forgiveness, in this sense, is not weakness, but strategic release. A refusal to let another person's wrongdoing dictate your inner climate. Yet wisdom requires memory, because compassion without clarity invites repetition. You can wish someone well from a distance, decline to carry animosity, and still recognize that trust must be rebuilt slowly, if at all. This balance protects both your peace and your standards. Your heart remains open enough to love again, but your awareness ensures that past lessons inform future choices. When compassion and boundaries coexist, you become neither bitter nor naive, and your spirit remains unburdened while your life remains guarded. Number 8. Inner silence. Not every attack deserves engagement. Sometimes the strongest spiritual response is silence. Silence denies evil the reaction it seeks. It preserves your energy. It forces others to confront their own intentions without your participation. Inner silence is mastery over ego. It is choosing peace over proving a point. Think of the online argument where someone deliberately misrepresents your words to provoke outrage. You could spend hours defending yourself to an audience that has already chosen sides, or you could disengage, refusing to feed the spectacle and let your consistent character speak over time. Or consider a workplace scenario where a colleague attempts to bait you with subtle insults, hoping you will react emotionally and appear unstable. When you remain composed and offer no dramatic response, their strategy collapses because drama requires fuel. The Stoics practiced restraint not as weakness but as control, understanding that the need to win every exchange is often ego disguised as righteousness. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself to ask whether responding would improve the situation or merely gratify pride. Silence, when chosen consciously, is not avoidance but discipline, the recognition that your peace is more valuable than public validation. It creates space between stimulus and response, allowing you to act intentionally rather than react impulsively. Those who thrive on chaos become unsettled when met with stillness, because stillness reflects their behavior back to them without distortion. Inner silence also protects you from unnecessary entanglements, from conversations that spiral without resolution, from arguments that drain more than they clarify. By mastering silence, you demonstrate that not every accusation requires defense, not every misunderstanding requires correction, and not every provocation deserves your energy. In that restraint, your presence gains weight, because it is guided by intention rather than ego. And peace becomes a deliberate choice rather than a fragile accident. Number 9. Purpose-driven living. When your life is anchored in purpose, small attacks feel insignificant. evil people thrive on distraction. They want you emotionally entangled in petty conflict. But when you are focused on something greater than yourself, your mission, your growth, your contribution, their tactics lose relevance. Purpose becomes a shield. It keeps your direction steady regardless of outside noise. Think of the entrepreneur building something meaningful who faces criticism, rumors, or envy, yet continues refining the craft because the vision matters more than the commentary. Compared to the person without clear direction who is easily pulled into every argument and slight, one advances steadily, the other burns energy reacting. Or consider an athlete training for a long-term goal who ignores taunts from competitors because daily discipline outweighs momentary ego battles. The Stoics emphasized aligning actions with a higher aim, focusing on virtue and contribution rather than reputation, understanding that when your compass is internal and purposeful, external turbulence cannot easily redirect you. Distraction feeds on emptiness. When there is no defined mission, drama feels meaningful. But when you are committed to growth and service, petty conflicts appear small against the scale of your objective. Purpose narrows your attention to what truly matters, filtering out noise that once felt urgent. It reminds you that your time and emotional energy are finite resources meant to build, not to bicker. When you wake each day guided by intention, you become less reactive to provocation because you recognize it as a detour from your path. In this way, purpose functions as both anchor and shield, stabilizing your emotions and protecting your focus, ensuring that your trajectory is determined by your calling rather than by the chaos others attempt to create around you. Spiritual strength is the invisible armor that no weapon can pierce, the fortress within that no chaos can breach, and the clarity within that no deception can distort. In life, evil does not always manifest as obvious attacks or physical aggression. Often, it comes quietly, subtly, in the form of manipulation, envy, betrayal, toxic words, and deceit. These are the invisible assaults that can unsettle the mind, cloud judgment, and shake confidence. The challenge, then, is not only to survive the actions of others, but to cultivate a level of inner fortitude so powerful that such actions cannot disturb you. True protection does not require retaliation or confrontation. It begins within. It begins with the understanding that your power, your peace, and your clarity are your own. No one can touch them unless you allow it. Spiritual strength is not simply a defensive measure, it is a transformative approach to life, one that elevates your consciousness, sharpens your awareness, and empowers you to navigate a world where not everyone has benevolent intentions. The first and most fundamental form of spiritual strength is self-awareness. Self-awareness is the mirror that reflects your strengths, weaknesses, fears, and motivations. Without it, you are vulnerable to influence because you do not fully understand your own patterns or triggers. Betrayers and manipulators are experts at identifying blind spots in others. They exploit areas where people are unaware of their own emotional and psychological responses. When you cultivate self-awareness, you develop the ability to pause, reflect, and assess situations without automatic reaction. You recognize when someone is pushing buttons or attempting to manipulate circumstances, and you respond with conscious choice instead of instinctive reaction. Self-awareness is not only knowing what you feel, but understanding why you feel it. It involves examining your past, observing your present, and envisioning your potential. It allows you to identify recurring patterns in relationships, environments, and situations that might make you susceptible to harm. This awareness becomes a shield, a guide, and a map that leads you to safety, integrity, and clarity. Closely connected to self-awareness is emotional discipline. Emotional discipline is the mastery of your inner state. It is not suppression or denial of feelings, but the ability to govern them rather than being governed by them. When someone insults you, provokes you, or manipulates you, It is your reaction that determines whether you are vulnerable or sovereign. If you react impulsively, you hand your energy and power to the person attempting to destabilize you. But when you remain centered, calm, and composed, you maintain control of the situation and protect your inner equilibrium. Emotional discipline transforms you into a presence that cannot be shaken by external chaos. It is the recognition that your emotions are powerful tools, not liabilities, and that true strength is the ability to feel fully without losing yourself in the process. Practicing emotional discipline daily builds resilience, allowing you to navigate conflict with confidence, respond to negativity with grace, and maintain peace when others attempt to provoke disorder. Another critical pillar of spiritual strength is discernment. Discernment is the capacity to see the truth beneath appearances. Not everyone who smiles at you is friendly, and not every word of praise carries sincerity. Discernment allows you to observe actions and intentions without being blinded by charm, flattery, or manipulation. It is not paranoia, it is the wisdom to differentiate between those who are genuinely aligned with your growth and those whose presence could harm you. Discernment enables you to evaluate people, situations, and opportunities based on consistent patterns rather than fleeting impressions. By cultivating discernment, you can identify red flags early, avoid entanglement with harmful individuals, and make decisions that preserve your integrity and peace. Discernment is sharpened through experience, reflection, and intentional observation, and it grows stronger the more you trust yourself and your intuition. A fourth vital element is strong boundaries. Boundaries define where you end and where others begin. They protect your energy, time, emotions, and space. Without clear boundaries, you are susceptible to overextension, exploitation, and manipulation. Evil thrives where boundaries are weak because it creates easy access to your vulnerabilities. Boundaries communicate self-respect and establish the rules for engagement in relationships, both personal and professional. They are not walls intended to isolate you, but filters that ensure only those aligned with your values and intentions gain entry into your inner world. By enforcing boundaries consistently, you prevent people from taking advantage of your kindness, trust, or generosity. Boundaries are also dynamic. They adapt based on experience and situational awareness. Learning to define, enforce, and honor boundaries is a lifelong practice that strengthens your spiritual foundation and protects your well-being. Detachment from validation is the fifth source of spiritual strength. Many people unconsciously tether their self-worth to external approval. They allow compliments, criticism, or social perception to dictate their mood, choices, and confidence. Evil people exploit this dependency, knowing that control over your validation is control over your actions. Spiritual strength emerges when you sever the emotional dependency on external affirmation and internalize your sense of worth. When your confidence originates from within, external forces lose their power to influence, disturb, or manipulate you. Detachment from validation allows you to act authentically, make choices aligned with your values, and navigate relationships without fear of rejection or disapproval. It transforms your self-perception into an unwavering foundation, ensuring that no one can undermine your inner authority. Faith in a higher order is another transformative spiritual strength. Belief in God, the universe, destiny, or universal law provides a framework for understanding and processing life's challenges. When you trust that balance and justice exist beyond immediate human actions, you are less likely to be consumed by anger, fear, or desperation. Faith shifts focus from control over external circumstances to mastery over internal responses. It allows you to accept that wrongdoing carries its natural consequences and that you do not need to orchestrate revenge to maintain equilibrium. Spiritual strength built on faith cultivates patience, perspective, and resilience. It creates a sense of security that transcends temporary challenges and ensures that your energy remains focused on meaningful action rather than reactive emotion. Equally important is the practice of forgiveness with wisdom. Forgiveness is often misunderstood as forgetting, excusing, or reconciling with those who have harmed us. True forgiveness is an internal process of releasing emotional attachment to pain, resentment, and revenge. It is a conscious decision to free yourself from the grip of the past while maintaining clarity and boundaries in the present. Forgiveness, when paired with wisdom, preserves your inner peace without compromising protection. You do not need to invite someone back into your life to achieve emotional liberation. Instead, forgiveness becomes a tool of self-mastery, allowing you to move forward with clarity, grace, and strength, while keeping lessons intact for your protection and future discernment. The next spiritual strength is inner silence. In a world full of noise, conflict, and manipulation, the ability to remain silent in response to provocation is profound. Silence is not passive, it is strategic. By refusing to react unnecessarily, you preserve energy, maintain composure, and deny evil the response it seeks. Silence reflects mastery over ego, the ability to choose peace over engagement, and the discernment to act only when it serves purpose. It prevents unnecessary entanglement in drama, gossip, and manipulation. Practicing inner silence consistently creates a powerful aura of calm and authority that naturally repels negativity. Finally, purpose-driven living anchors all other spiritual strengths. When your life is guided by a meaningful mission, principle, or goal, the distractions of envy, manipulation, and negativity become insignificant. Evil people often attempt to derail others by creating chaos, drawing attention to petty conflicts, or provoking emotional reactions. But a person anchored in purpose is unwavering. Their focus is clear, their energy directed, and their priorities unshakable. Purpose functions as both a shield and a compass, ensuring that no external force can divert the trajectory of a life committed to growth, contribution, and integrity. Collectively, these 9 spiritual strengths, self-awareness, emotional discipline, discernment, strong boundaries, detachment from validation, faith in a higher order, forgiveness with wisdom, inner silence, and purpose-driven living form a holistic approach to life that protects, empowers, and transforms. They are not reactive tools to combat evil, they are proactive cultivations of character and consciousness. They ensure that peace, clarity, and power reside within, independent of external forces. When nurtured, these strengths allow a person to navigate challenges gracefully, repel toxic influences effortlessly, and engage in relationships and endeavors with integrity and wisdom. Developing these strengths is not instantaneous. It is a process of consistent practice, reflection, and intentional living. It requires discipline to observe one's own emotions, courage to enforce boundaries, patience to trust processes beyond immediate comprehension, and resilience to maintain equanimity in the face of provocation. Each strength reinforces the others, creating a compound effect that fortifies the spirit, sharpens perception, and strengthens resolve. Spiritual fortitude does not make life free of challenges, but it transforms your capacity to face them. What once might have shaken or disturbed you becomes navigable with grace, clarity, and confidence. As you integrate these spiritual strengths into your daily life, you begin to notice subtle but profound shifts. You are less reactive to negativity. You make decisions rooted in clarity rather than fear. You conserve energy for what truly matters, instead of being consumed by drama, manipulation, or petty grievances. Your peace becomes self-sustaining, impervious to outside influence. Your confidence and integrity radiate, naturally deterring those whose intentions are not aligned with respect and sincerity. Over time, the presence of evil or negativity does not evoke fear, anxiety, or anger. It is simply observed and neutralized by the inner authority you have cultivated. Spiritual strength is transformative because it transcends external circumstances. It shifts the locus of power from external validation, approval, and control to internal mastery. It allows you to navigate complex human dynamics without compromise to your integrity. It ensures that your responses are deliberate, not reactive, and that your life is guided by wisdom rather than impulse. These qualities cultivate an aura of unshakable presence, one that naturally commands respect, discourages exploitation, and attracts alignment with people and opportunities that serve your highest growth. Ultimately, the cultivation of spiritual strength is a lifelong journey. It is continuous refinement of awareness, discipline, and purpose. It involves consistent evaluation of how your energy is spent, how boundaries are enforced, and how lessons from experience are applied. Spiritual strength does not isolate you from the world. Rather, it equips you to engage with the world confidently, discerningly, and compassionately. It allows you to rise above petty conflicts, deflect malicious intent, and maintain focus on what truly matters. Through this strength, you become both unshakable and expansive, capable of deep connection without vulnerability to harm. When these 9 spiritual strengths are consistently applied, you experience a profound transformation. Your life becomes a sanctuary of peace amidst chaos, a fortress of clarity amidst deception, and a beacon of integrity amidst moral ambiguity. You realize that the power to protect yourself was never dependent on the actions or approval of others. It was cultivated within all along. With self-awareness, emotional discipline, discernment, boundaries, detachment from validation, faith, forgiveness, silence, and purpose, you become untouchable, not because you avoid challenges, but because you have mastered the inner terrain that evil cannot penetrate. You step forward in life with calm certainty, unwavering focus, and quiet authority. Challenges no longer intimidate, toxicity no longer disturbs, and manipulation no longer succeeds. Your spiritual strength becomes your shield, your guidance, and your transformation. By internalizing these principles, you build a life where peace, power, and alignment are not aspirations, they are lived realities. You are empowered, not reactive. You are serene, not chaotic. You are protected, not vulnerable. You are spiritually fortified, untouchable, and alive with clarity, purpose, and unshakable strength. This is the ultimate defense against evil, the ultimate path to personal sovereignty, and the ultimate expression of spiritual mastery. Now declare to yourself, and write this in the comments: "My mind is disciplined. I am forever protected.